All right, so thank you very much for coming again. So the gentleman to do this with us, I'm sure a whole lot of us know him already in the industry, is Carl Mayer, a MBA. He has worked for the past 25 years in the internet industry in both technical and sales and marketing roles. And he was a director of channel marketing strategy for WorldCom in the EMEA region. He was taking care of clients, including Ford UK, NASDAQ, and the BBC. His roles took him across most of Europe and Middle East, culminating in working for King Hussein of Jordan. He is currently the product marketing manager for Giant. For those of us who do not know, Giant is the pan-European regional network. His expertise is the use of web analysis and social media to accurately target customers. He teaches the digital program and models at Cambridge Marketing College, and is also a joint author of the Cambridge Marketing Handbook. That's digital marketing. Also an author of the Cambridge Marketing Handbook, that's distribution of marketers, and also of companion guides in digital marketing, digital driving experience, and digital optimization. And they are all published by Cambridge Marketing Press. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our privilege to have here Carl Mayer. So we'll hand over to Carl now. Carl, we are here to hear from you, hear from your experiences, and also engage you on what we can do in our respective regions. Thank you very much, Carl. You can take over now.
Thank you, Effa. That's very, very nice intro for me. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. I can see some names on the screen whom I recognize from my many years at Giant now. It's now been 10 years I've been working with Giant. So there's a lot of names on the screen that I can recognize. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm just going to do the magic of sharing screen now. And hopefully this will work. Yep, okay. And so, yes, we can, so welcome, Audrey. Yes, so here I'm going to be talking about marketing products and services for NRENs. Product marketing is an interesting field, and within the NREN environment and the NREN community, it is particularly interesting because of the particular nature of our organizations, our customers, our clients. But in general terms, product and service marketing is a very interesting field, one I've massively enjoyed working within Giant for the last 10 years. And hopefully we can give you some insights into how it all works and what the uniquenesses are of product and service marketing, and how we can treat those and work with those. Product marketing is an incredibly specialized field within marketing. It's quite often not recognized that it is a very different field. It has a different skill set to conventional marketing, and it covers a whole range of different concepts. For example, if you tell somebody that you're working in marketing, they probably think you're some kind of combination of a webmaster and a member of the cast of TV programs, you know, where we all sit around drinking martinis, coming up with snappy slogans, and that's pretty much our entire lives. So it's just basically redesigning websites and drinking martinis, isn't it? And certainly if you look at any Dilbert cartoons, you'll see that marketing is treated in a very, jokey fashion. And I think all of us know that marketing in itself is quite a complex field in total. And it's not just about graphics, and it's not just about slogans and creating stickers and leaflets and all those kind of things. There's a lot of deep stuff which is going on within product and service marketing that we have to look at. So we have a different skill set to normal marketing, and we cover different concepts. And one of the really unique elements of product and service marketing is that we actually have to understand the technologies and the services as well as the pure marketing concepts. So we actually have to understand what the technology people are developing, what those service people are creating, and what those services actually mean. This can be an incredibly difficult thing for us all, because certainly within Géant and certainly within many, many NRENs, and as Efra's video has just shown us, we're covering a lot more services, and the role of an NREN is expanding and increasing all of the time. So whereas before we were predominantly looking at networking services, connecting universities, campuses, research projects and so on together and onwards to other networks and so forth, we're now looking at a whole range of services in the trust and identity field, and also now a lot of value-added services in cloud services, in video conferencing services. Efra has also mentioned those as well. All of these different services and technologies have their own languages, their own concepts. You can talk to the networking engineers within Géant and you can discuss routing strategies and routing technologies and IP address allocations and all these kind of things. And you can have really deep conversations with those guys. You then move over to the guys working in trust and identity, and the technologies you're talking about are massively different. You're talking completely different languages, and then you move into cloud services, and again you're talking a completely different set of technologies, even different sets of terminologies and the lovely three-letter acronyms that we love and to use all over the place. So we have to understand all of these different technologies, and then we have to actually understand the key marketing concepts, which we then apply in order to market those services. So this is a very schizophrenic kind of world we live in product marketing, where we're actually discussing multiple technologies and multiple things continually. And I always consider our roles to be very much translators, in that we are translating all of these deep technical things that our clever guys in the engineering teams are building into something that the end users can actually understand. And that process is really, really interesting. It's a really, really difficult process. We are working very much on the edges of marketing, but I think it's an exciting place to work, and I absolutely love it. And I hope you guys also enjoy working in this area. So really, basically, service marketing is not just simply building websites. It's not creating the pens and the stickers and the stress balls and the t-shirts and all these things. Yes, okay, we get involved in doing that simply because we have to, because there aren't thousands of people working at our beck and call to do these things for us. But really, those are just very much the edges and the frilly bits of what we're doing in terms of marketing and service marketing. What we need, in actual fact, is the answers to two questions. And these two questions are why and who. And over the next 45 minutes or so, I hope that I'm going to be able to help you understand what I mean by those two questions. And those two questions are really, really vital questions to ask when you're doing product marketing, because the answers to those questions will totally drive your marketing activities, your concepts, what channels you use, what skills you use, whatever activities you're wanting to do. Unless you answer these questions clearly, then you're not going to be able to do effective product and service marketing. So we get to the why. Now, this comes back to a much more generic and general kind of concept of marketing. And it comes to this concept of what a business does. And for the sake of this, business and NREN, I think, are going to be fairly interchangeable. What we are is in the business of problem solving. All businesses should be considering themselves to be in the business of problem solving. We identify that there is a problem, we create a solution to that problem, and in exchange for money, usually, we take away that problem. And if you actually look at pretty much any business you can think of, any successful business in the world, you can look at it and assess it in the terms of what is the problem that business is solving. So for Amazon is in the business of solving the hassle of you needing to go to shops to get loads of things. It will take away that hassle. It will provide you those goods and those straight to your door without you having to go anywhere. And the same with food delivery services, the same with takeaway services, the same with restaurants and all of these service companies. If you look at what a company is doing, you can see that its core basis is identifying what a problem is and removing that problem in exchange for cash. And so you need, whenever you're looking at a product or service that is being developed, to look at this in terms of problem identification. You need to be able to identify what the problem is, and therefore you can then start to work on that. And this really brings us to a key point in that product and service marketing shouldn't be something which is bolted onto the end of a service development activity. It should not be a case of the engineers sitting in their darkened rooms, tapping away at their computers for years and years and years. Suddenly then they create a fantastic product and go, here, marketing, off you go, please market this service for me. Because what we should be doing in terms of product marketing is working with that product development team right at the very beginning to identify what it is the problem that they are solving, and ensuring that the service and the products that they are creating are actually fit for purpose, in that they are solving a real problem for real people in a way that those people need it to be solved. And this comes to the classic within our environment, which is Eduroam. Klaas and his friends identified the problem very early on, that it was a pain when they moved from one university to another to have to get temporary logins to get into the Wi-Fi services and all of these kind of complications. And so they discovered this was a problem, this was a hassle. And so therefore they developed a service in order to take away that problem, to solve that problem. With all due respect to Klaas, I don't think he actually explicitly looked at it in terms of that problem identification mode. I think he just considered himself to be fed up with having to do something, and so he'd therefore do his wonderful technical things and fix it. But in terms of the way that marketing of products and services is done, this identification of problems is absolutely crucial. So when you're looking at a service, identify what the problem it is that it is trying to solve. This will help you hugely when it comes to you actually developing the marketing activities. So, first step is to identify the problem that you are trying to solve and what your service is trying to solve. The next activity you need to do is to understand who is suffering this problem. And this is often where a lot of issues come within service marketing, and in particular within the NREN community, because the term user and customer and so forth is very, very, very unclear and is not very well defined in most of our products and most of our services. So again, taking Eduroam, which I'm sure all of you are very well aware of, who is the customer for Eduroam? Who is the end user for Eduroam? And in fact, within Eduroam, those two things are completely different, because the end user is the students and the members of staff who are moving around from one university to another. But they aren't the people who buy the service. They aren't the people who are having to take the service, implement it in their environment, integrate it in with their AI system, and so on and so forth. They aren't the customer that we are trying to market to. And unless we understand that sometimes there is a split between customer and end user, then we can fall down within our marketing because we're actually speaking to the wrong people. Now, Eduroam, in some cases, is slightly a bad example in this way, because Eduroam is so well established now, is such a well established and well-known brand in most areas, in most places. A lot of the marketing that we do within Géant is actually to those end users. Because what we are then doing is we are trying to make sure that people don't share passwords. We are trying to make sure that they understand that they can use it in different places and so forth. So we are kind of over the hump of selling to the institutions necessarily. We are now in the process of just making sure that everybody is aware of what it is and what it does and so forth. But for most of our services, and certainly the newer value-added services that we're coming on board with now, be they AAI services, be they security services, be they VPN services, be they cloud services. We need to understand who the customer is within the NREN, within the institution, to actually understand whom we are marketing to. Because unless we understand who we are marketing to, it is very, very hard for us to actually identify what kind of marketing we need to do to those people. For new services coming along, new product development, NPD, one of the big challenges that product and service marketing has is that people don't actually realize that they have a problem, that they don't realize that they have something that they need to do. And so we need to do a lot of work in this problem education. We need to actually educate through our marketing to those customers that, hey guys, did you know you had a problem? Did you know that there's an issue here? One of the examples of services that I had launched a long time ago was a cloud-based virus scanning service. So it's a completely new product. No one had ever built a cloud service at all before. This was in 1998, 1999, before cloud services really existed. And so therefore for us, the marketing of that service was incredibly difficult because no one realized that what it was that we were offering, how it could possibly fit within their organizations. And because it was in this new area, people weren't searching for it. So the classic activities of pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization and all of those kind of things wouldn't work because simply no one was searching for cloud-based email virus scanning. Why would you? No one even knew that such a thing existed. No one knew that this thing would solve a particular problem that they had. It was much harder to get that into the environment. So you need to be able to understand this option here that you may need to have, which is this problem education, telling people that they have an issue. This particularly works in the security environments that we're all dealing with, in things like DDoS and so forth. There are so many organizations, so many institutions who don't understand the problems that they are facing within this area of security. Cybersecurity Month starts next month, and this is a massive awareness campaign that Géant runs, and I'm sure many of you guys will be taking part in Cybersecurity Month, because this is a full educative campaign to let people know that there are issues out there and that they are solvable. This educative marketing needs you to be able to push, to be able to get messages out to people who you don't normally talk to, because they aren't going to come to you without being told about these things. They are not going to passively search for stuff and things like this. And this also comes to one of the key issues that I think affects so many NRENs and affects Géant as well in particular. And I see it with Géant. It frustrates me hugely within Géant that we tend to market to each other. We say, oh, great, we're going to put an article up and we're going to post it on Twitter. Well, that's great. But then the only people who follow us on Twitter are people who already kind of know about us, because if you didn't know about us, why would you follow us on Twitter? We're not exactly a very exciting thing. We're not a Kardashian. We don't do anything exciting. So how do you market to people who don't know you're there? How do you market a service to people who don't know that the service exists, and so forth? So it's a very, very difficult area, this push marketing. Most commercial organizations out in the world spend a vast amount of their money into this push marketing with TV and radio advertising and so on and so forth. And this is something that we simply don't have the funds for. We don't have the right skill sets. We simply can't do this stuff. So it is an incredibly difficult thing that we are facing here. So we need to think about these things. We need to think about what venues we can use to do this push marketing. And I say venues because I literally mean, should we not be simply going to our own TNC conferences and NREN conferences and so forth to talk to each other about the services that we're creating and everything else? should we be looking at conference venues, conference activities where we can have speakers telling the education world what we're doing? We need to find ways of speaking to the institutions and the educators rather than talking to ourselves. And this is a really big switch that I think we are all going to face, particularly now we're moving into these value-added service areas. We need to think about how we're going to reach out from just sitting in conference rooms with each other, speaking to each other about the things that we spoke about each other about last year. And I think this is going to be a dramatic change for us all. But what we need to do within this educative marketing activity is we need to do three key things. We need to define the problem, and we need to then offer a solution to that problem and to demonstrate that we are the people to solve that problem. And when in my days of selling, I used to have a 7-figure quarterly sales target, so I've worn that t-shirt before now. The key thing when you're doing this kind of activity is to get the people's heads nodding, literally. So you define the problem again. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that's a problem I'm having. Yes, I can realize that's a real thing. Oh, right, you've got a good solution there. Fantastic. And you're the best people, you're the experts. I can tell you're the experts because you're telling me these wonderful things. Yes, absolutely, I'm going to sign the contract. You keep the momentum of the head nodding going through. And this is a clear path you need to have within marketing products and services. If you get the people's heads nodding at the beginning, then they continue that nodding motion and the momentum of that nodding until they actually buy the services from you. Many people within Jayant say that when I'm still doing sales, I still do sales to sell sponsorships to CNC. But basically, I keep on talking to the people until they just give me money to shut up. But hopefully, I'm doing a little bit of the head nodding thing as well in that process as well. So this is a really important thing, because many organizations in the original dot-com boom where I was working a long time ago would do this wonderful stuff of defining the problem and offering the solution and saying, hey, look, we've got this wonderful thing. And everyone go, hey, great, that's a fantastic solution. I'm going to go to my existing service providers and get them to offer it to me. So you would do all of this work in the education, and you would do all of this work in defining and setting the scene, and then you discover that someone else would come along and mop up the ready primed customers for their service. So it's very key that we actually have these clear calls to action, and we have these clear processes to make sure that people will take the services from us. So we need swift, easy onboarding of services. We need to make sure that everything is clear and clean and managed properly, so that people come to us to reduce the friction of the take up of services. And that friction is a key thing to look at, is this reduction in friction when it comes to the sales process. So, as I've said before, how do you push information to an audience who don't know you? We do too often market to each other. We need to find these places and channels to reach out. We need to be able to find ways to get to those people. And my colleagues in Jayant have spent last week at a conference with EUDAT, talking to a lot of different people who are essentially the users of our services. And I think that was a very valuable conference, because that gave us a way to speak to those people. This phrase, don't be that guy at the party. We've all been to networking events and even parties and stuff like this. And we've all been there talking to our friends, enjoying a drink, enjoying a chat, enjoying some nice food. And there's been an annoying guy who's always been pushing into your little circle of people, trying to flog his personal and financial advisor services and handing out business cards. And we all know that those are the most annoying people around. And the chances of you actually taking their service are verging on zero, because they have just annoyed the hell out of you in these kind of environments. When we're reaching out into these new venues through these new channels, we need to be very aware that we are not that guy at the party. We need to be very aware that we are not over pushing, over exerting ourselves into things, levering ourselves into places where we shouldn't be. And it can be very difficult to do these things. As an example, we're doing some work with a service called In Academia in Europe, which is a commercially focused service, actually to commercial service providers. So we're having to look at different venues. We're having to look at things like LinkedIn, because that audience is not reading our Twitter feed. It's not going to subscribe to Giant News. It's not going to subscribe to the kind of feeds on Twitter. It's going to be a business-to-business environment, and LinkedIn is a great venue for it. But we have to be very careful that we're not shoving ourselves into people's faces too much and being that annoying guy at the party. And so when you're doing a lot of push marketing, we need to make sure that we are doing just about enough. And the golden rule here is to market unto others as you would be marketed unto yourself. So we all receive huge amounts of marketing spam emails. We all receive this stuff, offering us everything from copywriting services to video animation services, blah, 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 blah. We get annoyed by that. We hate it. We don't want that stuff. It makes us less likely to take services from those companies because they have annoyed us. In many cases, when we are doing our marketing, when we are doing this push marketing, we need to be very wary that we don't fall into those traps ourselves. So you've identified your services, you've identified the problem, you've educated people that actually now they're saying, hey, well, great, we need this service. We now need to we've hooked them, and now we then have to reel those people in. We have to get those people to come to us to take our services. So we need to demonstrate that we are the right people to solve these problems. And again, now that we're moving into these value-added service areas, this is absolutely crucial because other people will be working in those areas. If they're cloud services, video conferencing services, security services, and so on and so forth, there are other people out there who can offer similar services. How do we ensure that our institutions, our clients, come to us, that they trust us? We now need to make sure that we have those supporting materials to address their questions, to make sure that we have the right materials at the right times, so that we have the fact sheets, we have the FAQs, we have all of the various bits and pieces ready so that the process is smooth and easy to reel them in. And this again is this reducing the friction of the process to make it easy, to make it simple. Because if it is difficult, if it is hard, if it's complicated, if it takes too long, people will go elsewhere. The internet is brilliant in many ways, but for organizations like ourselves, it can be tricky because the next supplier is a click away. The next service is a step away. So it's very, very easy for people to be lost, to slip off our hook and go to the next person. So we need a lot of this stuff. Another aspect within our environment is we are very similar to the business-to-business world. And in the business-to-business world, people are very, very conservative about taking new products and new services. They have the process of a me second. I want to make sure that someone else has taken it first and has experienced all the pain and so forth, and then I'll take it after it's matured a little bit. So things like case studies are vital for us in this respect, to show to people, to increase their confidence that the service that they are taking is a good service, is a valuable service, has been proven in the field and is worth taking and is of no risk to them, because many organizations are very risk adverse. So we have to be very aware of that through the process. So we know what the problem is, and we're starting to work out what who the customer is rather than the end user. So within IT services particularly, and within NREN's environment particularly as well, identifying this customer is a real big problem. We need to be able to define the audience for our marketing to make sure that we are speaking to the right people. And this is absolutely crucial, because for most services, for most non-trivial services, there is actually a chain of people who are involved in the taking up of a service. it may start with a guy in IT who's experiencing problems. You know, he's been put in charge of managing the network with your network management as a service activity, and he has no idea what the network looks like. He's no idea what devices are on the network, what services are available, and so forth. And so he's found a great tool which will do discovery within his organization. Great, fantastic, I found a tool. He then may need to get his boss to say, hey, can I implement this tool? Can I take this tool on a trial, or can I buy this tool, or whatever? And the boss may have some discretion at some points to say, yeah, go for it, try it. But if that starts to get expensive, then that may need to go up the chain of command even further, and then further as well. And it could be a very strategic change. It may even have to go all the way up to the board. Now, the thing about chains is we all know that the thing about a chain is it breaks at the weakest link. And as soon as it's broken once, then it's useless. So everybody in that chain has to say yes to taking this new product and this new service. If any one of those people says no, there's no deal, because, you know, so anybody can stop that chain at any one point. So anyone can break the sales process. And if you look at that chain that I've put here, the IT guy's boss, their boss, finance, the board, whoever, each of those people speaks a very different language in terms of what their needs are and what their pain points are. The IT person has got a whole bunch of pain points. He's got massive to-do lists of stuff. He wants to find tools to help him get through his to-do list. The boss has got budgets to manage. He's got, you know, strategies to implement. He's been given, you know, from on high, a variety of requirements. They have a different set of criteria. They have a different set of problems in their head. Their pain is a different type of pain. The finance person's pain is, again, a different type of pain. They don't want to commit to huge capital expenditure, or they don't want to commit to huge revenue potential costs and so forth. So there's different things that each of these people have within their process, which is vital to understand, because those languages are very different. The pleasure and pain points of those people are very different. And unless we understand that it is not a one-size-fits-all approach to our service and product marketing, we can quite often, you know, send out materials, and at some point each one of those guys will go, what is this rubbish? I don't understand this. How am I expected to sign up on something I don't get? I don't understand. Why are you talking to me in all of these three-letter acronyms? I don't do three-letter acronyms. I want to talk about business. So we have to be very careful of what we're doing in that area. So what language do they speak? What are their pain points? What are the things that are their problems, and how are you going to solve their problems? Why would they want to buy your service? You know, what is the thing that's going to reduce their pain and increase their pleasure as a result of your service? And that is an absolute crucial part of it. Without that, they are not going to say yes. You're going to move from having nodding heads to shaking heads. And the last thing you want is a shaking head of a no, I don't want this service, or no, I'm not sure. Can you look for another one which looks a bit nice, you know, and these kind of things. You don't want that kind of activity. So we have to make sure that we understand all of the chain of the people within our service. If it's a small tactical service, a free service, download this tool, it works, whatever, then the chain is very short. If it's a complex strategic service, maybe particularly with, you know, key competitors out there who are in the commercial world, then you may have to go a long chain of people within that process in order to get that yes. So the crucial takeaway from this is define the personas of each of those audience members. Ensure you're speaking their language. Ensure that you're telling them what they want to hear. And then you'll get them to nod their heads. Because without those nods, you won't get a sale. As I said at the beginning, product marketing is brilliant. I love it. Hopefully I can show you my enthusiasm through this. I absolutely love this, because you are dealing with all of the technologies which are in the organization. You are across all of those different things. You're talking 1 minute to the networking guys, another minute to AI, another minute to security, another time to clouds. You're covering all of the bases. You have an amazing picture of the whole organization. It's an incredible place to be. You need to be able to talk the language of those different teams. I had a fantastic conversation a couple of years ago when I was first launching in academia with one of our network guys. I mean, the guy was a networking god. He was an absolute genius in terms of networking. There was nothing he didn't know about networking. And I was talking to him about it in academia. And it was clear that he didn't understand how AI systems worked and how EduGain worked. And so I was teaching him about how EduGain worked. Wow, that's incredible. I didn't realize it worked like that. Because his entire life, his entire language was networks. And it would be the other way around. You could talk to an AA guy and they would have no idea how the networks work. But we, as service and product marketing managers, need to understand all of those things. And it's great. It's a fantastic feeling. But once we've actually understood this technology, we then need to translate that into this customer-focused language to actually convert all of those three-letter acronyms into words that the users will understand. And we'll go, ah, that's what it is, that thing. I need one of those things. And that is our key activity. It is actually helping our end users, our customers go, ah, that I could use doing this thing over here. And when the customers do that, you know, it's fantastic. It's a brilliant feeling. And what we need to also be able to do is to actually do it the other way around, is to listen to our audiences, to listen to our customer base, and actually understand what their problems are, so that this early on in the product and service development cycle, we can speak to those technical guys and say, actually, what the customers really need is slightly different, or helping them understand how the service can be structured, can be shaped to meet the end user's needs. So we are very much a two-way conduit for information. And this is absolutely brilliant activity to be in. It's a fantastic place to work within an organization. And I just absolutely love it. And I hope you can probably understand that I love this stuff. This comes down to one simple slide, basically, which I consider to be the 4 R's of service marketing. And this is a copyright me. This is a model I used when I'm teaching my students. And I think it works, and I hope it's useful for you guys. The 4 R's of service marketing as the right audience. So we've identified who is interested in our service, what their problem is, and so forth. The right message. So if we're talking to the IT people at the beginning of the chain, we're talking to them at the right message, or the right language of how to solve their problems. The right time here is in this journey through the company, through the organization, so that we're actually at the right point in the sales cycle with the right message and the right language. And then, and only then, do we understand the right channel. So that's why we haven't spoken about web design and SEO and pay-per-click and social media and all these kind of things, because the right channels that we use for this stuff is actually the last thing, and it's actually derived from the answers to the things above. So, okay, we're now talking to the finance guy. What we need is a video case study of the finance guy of another institution who's taken the service, telling this finance guy, hey, look, I took this service on, it saved me millions. I was spending out money on hardware all over the place, and I need to get rid of that. This thing here saved me millions. And then the finance guy goes, yay, great, I'll take this service because this is the right service for me. That video is completely and utterly useless to the IT people at the beginning of the chain. I don't care. They just want something to take away the pain of them having to manage thousands and thousands of VMs and how to procure them and how to manage them and how to keep them patched and so forth and so on. So they're looking at a very technical message. And so therefore they want a message, a white paper from a techie guy somewhere else to say, this is what we did in order to manage our farm of 10,000 VMs with 20,000 cores and whatever. Now, completely different language, completely different activity. The right message for the right people works. You switch those two videos around and send the white paper to the finance guy and the video to the IT guy. They're going to go, what are you talking about? This has nothing to do with me. I don't care about this. So that is what we have to do. And this is how we need to look at these things. Now, what I'm going to do is to show you some other techniques and activities. Cross and upselling. We've all seen this. If we go on out to Amazon, people who bought that thing also bought this thing. What this does is it increases your revenue, reduces your churn of customers. And as we're moving into these value-added services, particularly looking at this above the net stuff, then this is a massive opportunity for us because we can cement our position as the trusted supplier to institutions around the world. But of course, this opens us up to risks because there are external competitors offering these services. So when we're doing our marketing in this cross and upselling area, we need to demonstrate our skills. We need to demonstrate our abilities. We need to demonstrate our strengths. We need to demonstrate that we are trustworthy partners in these things. We're not just selling, we are partners. And certainly, I'm sure LACRAN and the NRENs here, as well as Géant, really consider ourselves to be very much partners with the institutions that we support. And strengthening that message is absolutely crucial. And cross and upselling of services on top of the traditional networking services will develop and deepen those relationships. And they're absolutely crucial to the way we work. This is an example service. This is a service that some of you guys may have used within your NREN, or some of you may be offering to institutions within your area. EduVPN, fantastic service. It is an open source free VPN. Though of course free doesn't mean you need to put some hardware in because it's not totally free, but it's slightly different. The key reason why this service is particularly good for the NREN and the RNE community itself is because most commercially focused VPN services that are seen have a per user per month charge. So if you have 20,000 users in your university, 20,000 multiplied by 5, multiplied by 12, please give us all this money, thank you very much. Whereas of course, the vast majority of those users will not be concurrent users. And so therefore, EduVPN is ideal because the hardware structures you need to put in are focused on concurrent userships rather than the number of potential users. And so the cost model for this is a very much more attractive service for the finance guys. It's also a very attractive service for the IT guys because it is open source. They can actually examine it, they can customize it, they can develop it and tweak it to their own particular needs. They can ensure that the sign-on screens are exactly what they need for their environment, and they can build it very, very quickly. So it hits the buttons both ways. It has the answers to both sides of messaging. The techie guys thinking, I don't want to lose control of what's going on in my VPN, and the finance guys, I don't want to have to spend $20 per user per month on a service which they're not going to use most of the time. So it answers the questions for both people at different points in the environment. So that is one of the reasons why this service is a particularly interesting service for what we're looking to do. So that really covers a very high level overview of how service marketing works. The key things you need to understand within service marketing are identifying the problem, identifying the audiences, identifying the chain of audiences if it's a complex service, and make sure you are talking to the right audience with the right message, the right time, and then you can identify the channels that you're going to use to speak to those guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Carl. I think one thing I like about your presentation today is a mixture of theory and practice, which is extremely important. You know, a lot of marketers are just into the practice, but they don't understand the theory that undergirds what we do. But I think one of the things this webinar has been able to at least achieve is the understanding of the theory that undergirds what we do on day-to-day basis. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes to, several minutes to go, but there are some questions. One question is coming from Dr. Musa Tessa. So if Doc can ask the question, I want to ask the question in audio, please, you can unmute and do that. Other than that, I can do that for you. I think he wants to know, he says, according to your experience, is it easy to poach a REN's client who is already with a commercial supplier? If yes, how?
It depends on the service that you're looking to get them back. I don't think poaching is the word. I think you're sort of retaining or regaining them. For a service such as like EduVPN, then yeah, absolutely, because you can talk the key pain points that a commercial services have. So you'd identify that with a VPN service, they're paying per user per month. With an EduVPN service, you're worried more about concurrency rather than total numbers, so you can massively reduce the revenue costs. Obviously, if they're with a commercial supplier, then they are spending money. They are spending hard cash. So you need to make sure that you're looking at offering values rather and identifying that the way that you're offering a service is a better value than the commercial provider. But again, it does come down to, you know, the different people within the organization will have different things that they're looking to do. You know, the IT manager, for example, within an organization may say, look, I'm not interested in developing this, implementing this thing. I'm just willing to just sign a check and give it to someone else and take away the problem. You know, I'm just, you know, solve the problem by throwing money at it is, you know, a solution to a problem. You may therefore need to look at different layers of the organization to say, well, okay, what you're doing is you're literally just throwing money away and you're throwing increasing amounts of money away. How do we find you a solution which means you don't have to throw increasingly large amounts of money away and which is better focused and better tailored to the R&E community? Because so many of the commercial services will be, you know, focused on how do we make money out of this service by spending as little as possible. Whereas with NREN services, we're looking very much more at the service wrap to say, okay, we need to provide the best possible service to you in terms of contention on networks and availability on networks. We work to a higher standard than a commercial, which is saying, well, can I get away with a 10-to-1 contention ratio on my backbone? We say, no, our users won't accept that. We want a different way of dealing with it. And so you may have different messages to seek to different people according to the service it is. But yes, it's totally possible to do. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Carl. I hope, Dr. Tessa, your question has been answered. Dr. Tessa is the CEO for NREN. Right, another question. Some people ask this question. They give me the question to ask, knowing that they will not be able to attend the webinars. So now, question: as a REN, regional REN, usually in our side of the world, we don't market directly to the users, the basic users. We market to the NRENs, and then they market to their communities. Are there situations or instances where a regional REN may want to or need to market directly to the user community? And how should that regional REN really approach that?
Yeah, this is the eternal problem of the REN. Géant has this problem itself all of the time, absolutely. Because each of the NRENs, has ownership of the institutions, and sometimes those ownerships can be very proprietorial. You can't speak to these guys; they're my guys, they're my people. They're working with me, and what it needs is a levels of trust between the REN and the NRENs themselves, because to say, well, okay, look, this is a service. Say, for example, take it again, EduVPN, because this actually works in this model. And this is a service that you, as the NREN, aren't actually going to be adding a great deal of value to. If your institutions take this service, you're not adding a massive value, service wrap value in there. But if we offer this service to the wider community and they take up this service and they use this service, then they'll start to be using your backbone capacity more, because they'll be connecting up more users remotely and so on and so forth. So it'll actually strengthen your relationship. So they have a win from it, a small win from it, but they don't have any costs in having to manage and support that service, because you're saying, well, EduVPN will take that support level separately anyway. So it comes onto a service by service basis. Other services, for example, in the cloud services environment, where certainly within Europe, there's a finder's fee and fees and commissions and so forth going around, then the NRENs quite justifiably say, no, we wish to take tighter control. And then what the REN has to do is to be an enabler and a facilitator. And it's very much in the distribution marketing, where essentially the REN is a wholesaler, the NREN is a retailer, and the institutions are customers. And we have to look at a marketing model and a sales model, which is very much in that distribution model. So there are techniques and challenges in that area, but both models are perfectly valid, but it does come down to on a service by service basis, and it does rely on this trust you have within your organizations to basically, not poach customers.
Okay, thanks for your response. I think the time is up, but I see another question here. Please, you can unmute and ask the question. Elizabeth, if you can, please unmute and ask your question. Otherwise, I can do that for you.
It's okay, Elizabeth. I can.
Hi, my name. Right.
Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, I've read your question. Can I highlight some USPs NRENs have that can be used as an advantage in competing with the commercial market? Yes, absolutely. Say, for example, in the networking area, networking technologies. If you're a commercial internet service provider, what you are looking to do is to have a backbone network, which is just about big enough. And you expect that most of your users won't be using it all of the time. So if you're looking at a broadband kind of environment in cities, then the capacity, each household will have a notional maximum speed. But you as a commercial internet service provider will go, well, actually, all of these people won't be using it all of the time. So we don't need to have 1,000 times 10 megabits per second uplink. We can cope with 10 times 10 megabits per second uplink, because chances are they won't all use it. So you have this contention ratio, and they do that to make money. They basically buy less than they're selling and hope you're not all using it at the same time. Within the NREN environment, we definitely work in a different way in terms of the levels of contention that we offer, so that we actually say, well, we're here to provide you with a service. You need this. We will therefore provide you with this. And we use our bulk purchasing powers to ensure that there is sufficient capacity in our network to cope with all of these unexpected loads. There was an example of a service that we did a test of this. What I will do is, I'll send you the link to the article which we wrote about this, where we tried a massive file download from London to Australia across both the research and education networks and across commercial networks. And the commercial networks choked it down to about 1/100th of the speed that we could manage over our networks, because they looked at it and went, that's too much, slow down, slow down, slow down. And they throttled us back on the commercial networks because we were using too much of their stuff. Whereas on the research and education network, we said, yeah, sure, you bought it, you use it. And so that was definitely the difference between our service and their product. And it's quite an interesting way of using the wording there. So those kind of things can be done. Again, the same with AAI services, EduRoam, EduVPN, all of these things. EduRoam is a service that no commercial organization would ever develop, because there's no money in it. What, you're giving free Wi-Fi to all of these people? Why? So you're borrowing some Wi-Fi from there and sharing it to them. It does not make commercial sense to any organization to build EduRoam. But it makes absolute commercial sense for NRENs to support EduRoam, because what we're doing is every single institution participating in EduRoam essentially donates a little bit of its Wi-Fi capacity so that when users come onto its campus, they use it in return for Wi-Fi capacity everywhere else. And it's a fantastic return on investment. And it's something that would never be done by the commercials because there's no money in it. So that's why we have these service and support environments rather than product and profit environments.
Wow, that's detailed. Thanks for that great response. I'm sure. Some of us who wanted to ask that question by now, they have their questions in their minds responded to. All right, so is there any other question anybody wants to ask? Any question? We have gone beyond time. Sincere apologies, but if anyone, maybe you can give opportunity for last person to ask the question.
Hello.
Hi, Mawaba. Okay, so Mawaba is from Togore, the NREN in Togo. Let's hear you, Mawaba.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carl, for the presentation. I just like you to share with us your slide.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the audio there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's asking for the slides. Am I right?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. I will send them to you and then you can distribute them to everybody. Absolutely no problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Marva for coming. Right, so I think we can draw the curtains here. Thank you very much. I can see quite a number of my colleagues in Europe and other parts of the world.
For more than 10 years now, NREN has supported the advancement of research and education in West and Central Africa. We serve our community with 3 key areas: connectivity, advanced digital services, and developing human capital. Through affordable, high-speed connectivity, researchers, staff, and students can collaborate with their colleagues within the region and beyond. Our video conferencing tool has come in handy in the COVID-19 pandemic period to support academic continuity. The tool is connecting thousands of students with their lecturers and academic supervisors and keeping administrative work going through online meetings. With EduRoam, learning is exciting. Through this authentication service, students can securely connect to available Wi-Fi when they visit other institutions across the world. EduID allows students and researchers to log into and access web-based services anywhere in Africa by using their home institution credentials. No need for re-registration or request for permission. National RENs and their member institutions can access NREN security and hosting services. Our modern infrastructure and capacity ensure that subscribers get the best of both services at affordable rates with high reliability. Network Operations Center as a Service, NOCAS, is designed for national RENs and RNE organizations looking for constant and effective monitoring and maintenance of their networks. NREN has publicly scheduled and on-demand capacity building sessions for the brains and hands that handle the national and campus networks in the region. Over the years, users and beneficiaries of our network, services and capacity sessions have created value for their communities and by extension, the society. NREN has been able to serve its community thanks to the European Union's support under the Africa Connect Phase project. The journey of unearthing potentials and creating opportunity for real socio-economic value continues.